It's beyond belief. It was the opportunity to see maybe 1,000 deer in a day. And maybe to see never another human being. You could imagine yourself as being there with the mountain men, with the early day cowboys of the upper green. It was a link to that history, that heritage. And that link's gone now. That freedom's gone, that wildness is gone. And I can't go there anymore.
Well, yeah, I understand that concern because I'm a hunter myself, and a lot of the folks in our company, in our industry, are hunters and fishermen. So, those concerns are real. It's not like oil and gas folks just look for special rivers and places to go drill wells. That they just happen to coincide once in a while with where the gas happens to be. And when that happens, in fact, always, we do our best to minimize the amount of disturbance if we can't avoid it entirely. And when our activity is finished, we restore the land to its original function, its original appearance, and you'd never know we were there.
It's a defining struggle for our times. A nation with enormous energy demands. A nation with a profound love of wilderness.
Water runs downhill. And really the green is not just a river. It's 1,000 different little streams and water courses, some of which don't even have names. The Little Mountain area is a kind of a jewel in a vast sea of very arid, very difficult habitats for a lot of different wildlife. But here, like I say, we've got habitat that doesn't exist for miles in any direction. And it's just tremendously valuable to these deer and to a host of other species. The most immediate threat in the greater Little Mountain area is gas development. So I think it's time for us to take another look, another approach, another paradigm for gas development in Wyoming. The gold rush mentality that's characterized gas development over the last decade in Wyoming, it's not sustainable. It's not good for communities. It's not good for wild lands like this. It's time to take a breather and take a more planned approach.
The approach to developing natural gas is changing. It's always evolving. We always look for ways to do things better. I do my business and our company does its business so that those generations will have a place to hunt, they'll have animals to hunt, they'll have fish to catch. I think it's just incumbent on them to try and understand that sometimes there's more than one use of the land at any given place, any given time, and that we all have a social responsibility to not deprive the public owners of that natural gas the ability to benefit from it, to have a cheap, clean source of energy for heating and for manufacturing and so forth, as opposed to just, I want my hunting.
I'd like for my little 8 grandchildren to be able to live and love and enjoy the Little Mountain and the Green River and this system the way I've been blessed to be able to. Do I think they'll be able to? I hope so. I pray so. But I worry. I worry.
Conflict is not new to the Green River. In the 1950s, it became the focus of debate over damming, a debate that still links the river to environmental and political movements.
There was a movement afoot to change the Colorado River, and the phrase they used was to turn a natural menace into a national resource. And so the Colorado River Storage Project was born, and that would have put dams, several dams up and down the Green River, dams on the Colorado, even in the Grand Canyon, dams on all the tributaries, and the whole basin would have just been plumbed, basically, so that you could divert the water and use it for agriculture and electricity. One of the facets of that was the Echo Park Dam. That was up in Dinosaur National Monument, right below the confluence of the Green and the Yampa.
Well, Dinosaur National Monument contained a lot more than just a quarry for fossilized dinosaur bones. It also contained a beautiful area, a flat-floored valley with cliffs around it, somewhat reminiscent of Yosemite. which was known as Echo Park, because when you called across the river, the cliffs would echo your sound. And unmatched. Nothing else existed like it anywhere. So it was something we should have been careful to save. It just wasn't known. Along came this gentleman named Devereux Butcher, and he noticed it, and he began to publicize it at the time when the dam threat was imminent.
And so a grassroots campaign started, and it really became active when David Brower, who was the famous environmentalist at the time, was head of the Sierra Club. And he went to the Sierra Club board and said, this is happening in a national park and we should fight this. And so the Sierra Club started writing letters and started sending out groups of people to go down the river, and then they would in turn see it's a beautiful place, it's a national park, we shouldn't destroy it with a dam or fill it up with water. The first real grassroots movement of an environmental cause started right here on the green up in the Echo Park Dam, and it was successful. They finally defeated the dam, much to the amazement of the Bureau and the local industry leaders and local government leaders, because they had no idea that this could actually be defeated, but it was.
No dam would be built in the park. Instead, Glen Canyon Dam was expanded on the Colorado River near Page, Arizona. But one battle merely led to another.
It was at that point that conservationists in the 60s realized that they needed some kind of act, some kind of law to protect rivers alone without establishing national parks. And that's where the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act came from in 1968, to protect rivers and have a nationwide policy of river protection that complemented the nationwide policy of dam building. The genius of the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act is that a river doesn't have to be completely wild and remote. There can be development, there can be roads, there can be diversions, there can be farms and ranches, there can be cities and towns. The Wild and Scenic Rivers Act is designed to protect the river as a whole. And it's sad that the birthplace of the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, the Green River, still does not enjoy wild and scenic river protection 40 years after the original passage of the act.
Utah is the second most arid state in the nation, and being able to develop water is essential to our communities. The problem with a wild and scenic river designation is you cannot put in a pipeline, you cannot put in new type of diversions, which makes it very difficult in any way to ever develop your water. There could be no hydroelectricity. It just would totally preclude any type of development. And so something a little less restrictive would be valuable.
On the green, there's a thorny balance between the needs of water development, the environment, and recreation. Sometimes that balance can be met. The construction of the Flaming Gorge Dam had a profound effect on the Green River, from the Flaming Gorge Reservoir to the confluence with the Colorado. River flows that had always been subject to nature now had a means of control. The section of the river below the dam was forever changed. Transformed from a silty, warm water river, it now runs with cold, clear water. The change made this section of the Green one of the world's best recreational trout fisheries.
It rivals anywhere I've ever been, and I haven't been to all places, but this place, every time I come back to it, I just look at it as, this canyon is, the wildlife, the canyon, the clarity of the river, the whole habitat, the whole ecosystem is unique, and that's what makes it such a world attraction.
The neat thing about the river is how clear it is, and that's one of the major draws that really does pack in people here, is just being able to see all the fish and the true clarity of the water. And it also teaches people how to fish so much because they can watch everything happening. I think it's the best teacher there is for learning fly fishermen, really.
Yeah, that's a nice fish.
Originally, with the cold water, you had very little diversity. You actually didn't have enough aquatic life in the system to support a good fishery. And then when they were able to regulate the temperatures, the wider your temperature range you have, the greater the diversity of aquatic life you have. And the trout fishery blossomed after that.
But what was